Unbelievable revelation, how Benedita defied fate after her baby was drowned for 100 days. 1851, in the small, quiet town of Maplewood, shadows lurked behind every kind smile. Benedita, an immigrant mother, had come to this land seeking opportunity, yet she found herself often wrapped in whispers and glances that pierced her heart. With every loaf of bread she baked in her humble bakery, she poured her dreams into each swirl of dough, her infant son cradled in her arms, a light in her otherwise dreary world. "You will grow strong here," she would say to him, her voice filled with hope that rang louder than the rolling pin against the wooden table. The townsfolk benefited from Benedita's talents but began questioning her worth. The instant sorrow cast a shadow over her life. One fateful day, in the gentle light of dawn, a tragic accident took her boy from her arms, and suddenly, Benedita was left with a chasm of grief where laughter once filled her bakery. Condolences flowed in, warm platters of food and heartfelt whispers wrapped her in kindness, but as the days passed, that sentiment turned cold. The whispers morphed into a heartbeat of doubt, and Benedita could sense the eyes that scanned her, judging her not just for her loss but for her very being. Benedita sank into her pain, pockets of despair clawing at her soul. It felt unbearable. While she leaned on a few caring friends, the rest of the community began to question her presence, their breath clouded by suspicion. She would overhear fragments of conversation at the market, words like fate and foreigner darting like daggers. Each interaction became a tightrope walk between empathy and aversion. Then came the town hall meeting, a supposed gathering to heal the wounds. But as voices rose and tempers flared, Benedita's heart raced. Misunderstandings simmered on the surface, and people kept poking at wounds that were still raw. They turned to each other, dividing themselves further, fueled by misinformation and the age-old bias of the outsider holding a strange privilege. Benedita stood on the fringes, watching with clenched fists, a wavering hope dimming with each unsympathetic glance. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amidst the storm, a shocking revelation arrived. Her baby, presumed lost to the cruel hands of fate, was alive. A neighbor, cloaked in their turmoil, had taken him in, their own grief bending the rules of understanding. Benedita felt her heart flutter, a wild hope amidst despair. She confronted the neighbor, and through exchanges heavy with shared sorrow, they began to untangle their grief. They weren't enemies. They were two mothers weighed down by unimagined losses. As Benedita walked away, cradling the life that remained, she realized her battle was no longer solitary. This journey held the promise of healing for herself and the community. As brave hearts began to stir, the town she worked so hard to be part of wrestled with its own demons. Would they open the door to understanding, or would fear and bias continue to blind them? Benedita knew she had to find her way not only to her child but also through the thick fog of prejudice that held them all hostage. In the doorway of her bakery, she stood holding her son again. But would the warmth of their love dissolve the icy grip of uncertainty? As the sun dipped low, gathering golden rays, a question lingered in the cool evening air: would she find a way to stitch the seams of her fractured world back together? Benedita stood in the doorway, her heart thrumming as she gazed at her son, the tiny figure nestled against her shoulder. The golden rays of the setting sun bathed them in warmth, yet shadows still clung to the corners of her world. How had it come to this? She once stood proud in her bakery, surrounded by laughter and promises. Now, in this moment of bittersweet reunion, uncertainty hung thick in the air. Days passed like autumn leaves caught in a fickle breeze. Each morning, Benedita awoke with renewed resolve. Her son's soft coos were a soothing refrain, lulling her into a fragile peace. But outside, the whispers about her continued. She could hear them at the market, at the well, their words wrapping around her like the chill of winter, biting into her resolve. How could he survive when she did not protect him? They would say, their accusations veiled in pity. Benedita felt the weight of their gazes, every sideways glance felt like a sickening stab in her chest. Yet, within the four walls of her bakery, the scent of fresh bread began to weave a fabric of healing. With each loaf she crafted, she poured her heart into the dough, imagining the joy it might bring to those hesitant patrons. She envisioned a town united, where children's laughter would ring through the streets again. If only she could reach out to them. One sunny afternoon, while kneading a batch of dough, an idea sparked. What if she hosted a gathering in the bakery? An invitation to share stories, to break bread together, to create a bridge between her world and theirs. Her hands moved deftly, shaping the dough into rounds, thinking of how she would pour warmth into this endeavor. However, doubt crept in. What if they refused her? What if they turned their backs? Her heart raced at the thought. Yet, the burning desire to draw the community back together reignited a part of her soul that had dimmed. She couldn't let fear win. With trembling fingers, Benedita penned her invitation. Join me at my bakery for bread, stories, and warmth. Together, we can rise above sorrow, she wrote, but as she sealed the envelopes, she could almost hear the sneers. Pushing past them in her mind, she slipped the invitations under doors, handed them to neighbors, and left them at the market, each step a tiny rebellion against despair. Days crawled toward the event, and the tension in Maplewood felt palpable. Despite the uncertainty, she woke early, determined to bake enough bread to fill her shop. As the sun began to set that evening, she hung a welcoming sign on the door, her heart racing with excitement and fear. Would they come? Would they listen? The bell above her bakery door chimed softly, and Benedita's breath caught as she saw familiar faces stepping in hesitantly. One by one, they trickled in, each carrying their doubts, yet curiously drawn to the warm smell of bread that enveloped them. As they gathered, the initial awkwardness faded into soft smiles and murmurs, like the rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. Benedita stood at the front, clutching the warm bread rolls close to her heart. Welcome, she said, the words spilling from her lips with an unexpected courage. Tonight, let us not dwell in our separate pain but weave our stories together, one loaf at a time. Would this be the moment that finally broke the ice of suspicion? As she shared her journey through loss and the miraculous return of her son, Benedita could feel the atmosphere start to shift. But just as hope blossomed, the sound of a door creaking open caught her attention, and she turned, her heart dropping at the unexpected sight. Standing in the doorway was someone from her past, someone who had always held a secret of their own. Would they turn the tide toward acceptance, or bring storms of turmoil back to Maplewood once again? A wave of tension surged through the bakery as Benedita locked eyes with the figure now standing in the doorway. It was Clara, an old friend from her bakery days, yet the distance between them felt like an ocean. The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken words. Clara's arrival stirred a whirlpool of emotions within Benedita. They had once shared dreams over warm pastries, but life had twisted their paths. Clara's face, though friendly, carried traces of pain and doubt. Benedita's pulse quickened. Benedita, Clara said, a hesitant smile breaking through her initial unease, I heard you were back. Each word felt heavy, layered with history. Clara. Benedita's voice trembled slightly, a mixture of relief and apprehension. I wasn't sure you'd come. I think we both have more to say than we realize, Clara replied, glancing around at the small gathering. Benedita glanced back at her guests. Some remained seated, eyes darting from her to Clara, caught between curiosity and uncertainty. The warmth of the bread seemed to dissipate slightly, replaced by this unexpected chill. Would their shared history cool the space that was just beginning to glow with warmth? Please, join us, Benedita gestured, her heart pounding as Clara stepped inside, brushing past the threshold. Each step came with memories bubbling to the surface, baking side by side, laughter echoing down the streets, and that night, years ago, when everything shifted. Benedita took a steadying breath, pushing down the fears rising in her chest. They settled into the huddle, the scent of fresh bread enveloping them. "Tonight is about healing," Benedita said, squeezing the rolls in her hands. "Let us share our thoughts, our hearts please." Clara's smile softened, yet Benedita could see old ghosts dance in her eyes. As they began to open up, talking about loss and grief, tensions began to ease. Clara shared her story about a trial that had taken a loved one from her, and Benedita felt empathy wash over her. But then Clara locked eyes with Benedita, the air crackling with an unspoken truth. "I have to tell you something," she began, her voice barely audible. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Benedita's heart raced, sensing that the revelation could unravel what they started to mend. "It's about the night of the flood, something I never told you." Benedita felt her stomach drop. Memories surged, thick and bitter. The flood that had swept away so much, the chaos, her own blinding grief. "What do you mean?" she whispered, scarcely trusting her own voice. Clara leaned in, words spilling out. "I saw things, I was there, but I was too afraid to intervene." Before Clara could finish, a child's laughter rang out from the bakery's back room, interrupting the weight of the moment. Benedita turned, her heart lightening for a fleeting second before the gravity of Clara's words rushed back in. "This isn't the time for half-truths, Clara," Benedita said, though she felt the seams of her composure fraying. "If you know something, please." Clara took a deep breath, the sadness in her eyes intensifying. "What I saw could change everything." As the air grew thick with questions and lingering tension, Benedita's mind raced. What could Clara say that would shift her whole world once more? Timid anticipation hung in the air, buzzing with danger and hope. Before she could urge Clara on, she caught the bewildered gazes of her townsfolk, all waiting for the truth. This was it. Could she handle what awaited? Would the secrets of the past bind them together or pull them further apart? The night was still young, and the weight of revelation lingered, ready to push her toward uncharted waters. Clara's next words could either break them or bind them. What would unfold next? Clara took a moment, her breath shaky, before she continued. "I was close to where the water was rising. I didn't want to show myself. I thought I might drown too." Benedita's heart pounded in her chest. All those years, all that pain, and Clara had kept this buried. "But you have to understand, I was terrified." Terrified? Clara, you don't get it." Benedita interrupted, voice rising. The echo of her words filled the small bakery. Everyone looked on, the tension crackling around them. "I lost everything that night. You lost your chance to help me." A shadow flickered across Clara's eyes, as if the weight of the truth began to crush her. "I never thought it would come to this. I've carried the shame since that night," she murmured, her eyes filled with tears. Benedita felt her stomach twist. She wanted to scream, to release the explosive mixture of anger and sorrow that threatened to spill over. Instead, she swallowed it down, willing herself to breathe. "Clara, this isn't just about you. My baby was lost. Gone without a trace. You could have tried." The hurt poured out, fueled by years of unanswered questions. The surrounding guests shifted uncomfortably, some whispering softly among themselves. Benedita could see their faces, each reflecting a blend of concern and curiosity. "I thought of you every day," Clara pressed on, voice quavering. "I replayed that night in my mind like a haunting melody. I was frozen in place. I didn't know what to say or do. The guilt, it has been a prison." Silent tears ran down Clara's cheeks. Benedita could feel a part of her heart twisting, torn between compassion and betrayal. The healing of their strained friendship hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of that night's painful memories. "What do I even say to that?" Benedita said, letting the words tumble out. "You say you cared, but you did nothing." Clara's expression softened. "I didn't want to accept the truth, any more than you did. We both lost that night. And now I see," perhaps I should have faced it sooner. Benedita turned to the group, their faces a mix of empathy and surprise. The bakery, once filled with the sweet aroma of bread, now felt heavy with anguish. Is this our truth? To carry the burden alone, letting guilt fester? Well, it sounds like you're both suffering, an older woman spoke up, her voice steady. Why not face it together? Benedita and Clara exchanged glances, surprise flickering across their faces. Could they truly stand side by side after all these years? Could they help each other heal from a shared wound? Before they could contemplate that, a sudden bang echoed from the back room, drawing their attention. It was Mrs. Delgado's grandson, arms overflowing with baked goods, face alight with joy. Look what I made! He shouted, blissfully ignorant of the heaviness suffocating the air. His laughter, bright and innocent, filled the space, breaking the tension like a warm breeze. Benedita's heart swelled painfully, blending nostalgia with a rush of hope. Perhaps there was an opportunity and opening to rebuild. Maybe, she started, feeling the weight of a new thought blossom in her chest, maybe we can find a way to honor the past without being enslaved by it. Clara nodded slowly, a flicker of determination lighting her features. I want to try, Benedita. I want to make this right. As the bakery buzzed back to life, laughter weaving through the air, Benedita realized the possibilities were endless. She turned to Clara, uncertain yet hopeful. Perhaps together, we can discover something beautiful from this pain. But just then, deep down, a new question tugged at her mind. If they could move forward, could they truly let go of the past? What would it take to find peace? And as that thought lingered, Benedita looked to Clara, waiting for answers that might change everything once again. Benedita stared into Clara's eyes, searching for something in understanding, a mutual strength, maybe even forgiveness. The room buzzed with chatter, the previous tension dissipating like the steam from freshly baked muffins. But inside, a storm brewed. Could they really face the past together? Did they have the strength? Clara wiped her tears, taking a shaky breath. I need to speak to you alone, she whispered, a determined glimmer igniting her gaze. Benedita nodded, a weight settling in her gut, but she followed Clara to the back corner of the bakery, away from prying eyes. What is it? Benedita asked, arms crossed defensively, letting the wall of emotion thicken between them. Clara hesitated, guilt swirling around her like a cloud. You deserve to know the truth. There's more I haven't told you about that night. Benedita's heart raced. More? What could be worse than what you've already said? Clara's voice trembled nearly as much as her hands. I saw someone that night. Someone I thought I could trust. The words hit Benedita like a slap. What? Who? Are you saying it wasn't just you? You had help abandoning me? No. Clara insisted, her eyes wide with urgency. No, it's not like that. She faltered, chewing on her lower lip. It's complicated. I thought it was just a rumor, but days later I heard the whispers. Someone was looking for you, for your baby. Ice coursed through Benedita's veins. Looking for me? Why didn't you say anything? Because I was scared. If I spoke up, there was a chance they'd come after us both, Clara said, voice catching. But perhaps I was wrong. I should have stood up. We were just kids back then, lost in fear. Kids? Benedita scoffed. You were old enough to know what was happening. We were all old enough to understand when lives were at stake. The hurt rushed in like a tidal wave, and Benedita could feel anger boiling just beneath the surface. How could Clara not see the impact of this? I'm sorry, Clara pleaded, desperation etched into her features. I want to help you now. We have to figure this out. Benedita's gaze was cold, but something inside her began to thaw. Help me how? With what? You think bringing back a past we can't change is going to make it right? I don't have all the answers, Clara said, her voice wavering, yet hopeful. But if we piece it together, maybe we can find the truth. Maybe there's a reason we were both left to drown alone. The bakery was alive with chatter, the smell of bread mingling with the scent of fresh coffee, but Benedita felt a chill. What if Clara was right? What if they were still tethered to that night, and to the people involved? Let me think about it, Benedita whispered, the weight of the world resting heavily on her shoulders. Clara stepped closer, bridging the gap. Please, Benedita. The whispers were silent, but they said it was linked to something bigger. We need to find our courage together. Benedita studied Clara's face, a blend of remorse and a flicker of fierce determination. She wanted to shake her head, to let the memories remain buried. But a small part of her wondered if this was the path to healing. Okay, Benedita finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Let us see where this leads. But as they began to consider the path forward, a sudden shout erupted from the bakery's front door. Someone had just arrived, and something in the air shifted once again. What is it? Benedita and Clara interjected together, tension back in the air. With every soul in the bakery glancing toward the door, a chill rushed through Benedita. What or who had just walked back into their lives, ready to stir the past once more? The door swung open with a crash, and the warm light of the bakery spilled into the dim lobby. Benedita followed the gazes of the patrons, her pulse quickening as a familiar figure stepped inside. Tall and imposing, with a face she hadn't seen in years but recognized instantly, stood Ray. Ray, she breathed, a mixture of disbelief and dread knotting in her stomach. His presence was an unwelcome reminder of everything she had spent years trying to forget. Benedita, he said, his voice hoarse but steady. The chaos of the bakery faded into the background as he took an uncertain step forward. People shifted in their seats, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Clara's grip on Benedita's hand tightened, a silent plea for composure. Why are you here? Benedita demanded, forcing herself to hold his gaze, though every fiber of her being screamed to turn away. After everything I came to find you, Ray replied, his expression serious. I know it's been a long time, but I need to explain. Explain? Explain what? She let the anger seep into her voice, each word dripping with years of pain and resentment. You chose to leave. You were supposed to protect us. I know. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. I didn't know what to do back then. I was scared too. Scared of what? The truth? Benedita asked, her heart pounding in her chest. She glanced at Clara, who stood rooted to the spot, eyes wide as if trying to process this unexpected twist. Ray's face softened. Scared of letting you down again. I've made mistakes, so many mistakes. But I was wrong to keep silent about what I found out, what happened after that night. Enough. Benedita almost shouted, squeezing Clara's hand hard enough to draw a wince. You mean to tell me you decided to just show up and now want to share your version of the past? I'm not here for myself. I'm here because there are things you need to know. Things about our baby. The word sent a shockwave through the air, and Benedita inhaled sharply, eyes wide. The baby. The child that had changed everything. A sudden mix of pain and longing coursed through her, memories flooding back uninvited. The dreams that had been lost, the cries that had haunted her in silence. Stop. Clara interrupted, her voice firm. She stepped between Ray and Benedita. You can't just waltz back in here and expect her to believe you. Not without proof, not without something solid. Ray looked pained but nodded slowly, an understanding passing between them. I get it. But this isn't just about the past anymore. There are people out there who know the truth, and they're watching. What truth? Benedita felt a surge of confusion mix with something deeper hope. Fear. What does that even mean? I can't explain it all here. Can we talk somewhere private? After everything, all you both deserve is clarity. I need your trust back, Ray pleaded. Benedita's heart raced as uncertainty enveloped her. The last few years had been so quiet, so painfully predictable. But the return of Ray stirred her restlessness, leaving her teetering on a precipice. Could she really take that leap again? Clara's eyes locked onto Benedita's, searching. What do we do? A distant echo of her past whispered in her ear, urging her to close the door on Ray, to shield herself from any more heartache. But as she stood there, she also felt the tug of a larger truth pulling her forward. Let us see what he has to say, Benedita replied, her voice wavering yet steady, the weight of the decision settling on her. But if he is lying? Benedita, I promise I'm here for you, Ray stressed. The tension hung heavily in the air, but beneath it, a flicker of curiosity began to glow. Perhaps this was the path to answers, a way to untangle the knots of time. As they turned to follow Ray outside, the bakery door swung shut behind them. Benedita took a deep breath. She was about to dive into the unknown, her heart hammering with both fear and anticipation. What have I done? She thought, as the door swung closed, sealing a chapter of her life. Would the truth they sought be worth the risk? And as they stepped into the light, Benedita couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched and that this was only the beginning. Outside, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement. The air was thick with the scent of fresh bread and coffee, but Benedita barely noticed. Her mind raced as Ray led them away from the echoes of the bakery and into the bustling street. She felt disoriented, an old wound reopening in her heart. Clara walked closely beside her, whispering, "Are you really sure about this?" Benedita hesitated, looking into Clara's worried eyes. "I don't know. But if there's a chance." Ray glanced back, his expression unreadable. "I promise, I won't waste your time. What I have to say changes everything." They found a bench in a small park, a quiet corner away from the prying eyes of curious passers-by. Ray sat across from them, hands resting on his knees, his frame tense. Benedita's heart hammered in her chest. This was a moment she dreaded but also longed for. "You said you had proof," Clara reminded him, crossing her arms defensively. "What do you want us to believe?" Ray took a deep breath, his eyes shifting between them. "I've done a lot of digging since that day." His voice quavered. "I found people who were close to what happened. They know things that didn't reach either of you, things about the baby." The mention of their child pierced through Benedita like a sharp blade. Every acknowledgement felt like reopening a wound. "What happened?" she asked quietly. "Tell me." Ray leaned forward, urgency in his tone. "There were operations in the shadows, people trying to control what they considered fate. There are people involved who believe that those like us, people with a past, are still somehow in danger." Benedita shook her head, frustration building inside her. "What does that even mean? You expect me to believe that our child was part of some conspiracy?" "It sounds wild, I know," Ray continued, pushing through her anger. "But there are people who can help us find out more. There's a chance to make sense of everything." "What chance?" Clara interjected. "To dig into the past again. After everything you've put us through. I know it's not easy, but if I hadn't come, you'd never have the opportunity to learn the truth. There's a place I want to take you. It's safe. It's where people are looking for answers too." Benedita clenched her fists, anger sparking in her. "You think running away again is safe? You think more secrets will make this go away?" Ray's eyes held a weight of sincerity. "No, I believe confronting the past will. I need you to trust me. This isn't about us anymore, it's about our child, about finding peace for you both." Just then, a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye caught Benedita's attention. A figure in a dark coat stood just beyond the trees, watching them. Her stomach dropped as a recognition painted the stranger's face. "Ray," she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "Someone's watching." Ray turned to spot the figure, but it melted into the shadows, moving swiftly away. Benedita's pulse quickened. What does this mean? Are they connected? We need to go, Ray said, panic rising in his voice. Now. Before they could process what was happening, he was on his feet, pulling them along. Benedita's heart raced. This felt like a spiraling descent into chaos rather than clarity. As they hurried down the sidewalk, the weight of what lay ahead loomed over her. Was she ready for whatever truths were waiting in the shadows? With every step, her resolve fought against the rising tide of fear. The taste of uncertainty filled the air thick like smoke. She had one question that gnawed at her with relentless intensity. What had they woken up in their pursuit of the truth? And as they stepped into the heart of the unknown, the feeling of being watched pressed harder against her. With whispers of danger lurking nearby, she knew one thing for sure, this was just the beginning of something much larger. They moved quickly through the park, Ray guiding them with urgency. Benedita's heart thundered in her ears, a frantic rhythm that matched the pounding of her feet against the pavement. Clara kept her head low, but the shadows of doubt loomed in her eyes. Where are we going? Clara asked as they darted around a corner, breathless. To a friend. Someone who can explain everything. Just, trust me. Ray's voice was firm, but the anxiety that flickered behind it made Benedita's stomach twist. The streets grew quieter as they ventured further away from the bakery, the sounds of the bustling city fading into a dull roar behind them. Benedita felt untethered, like a leaf caught in a windstorm, swirling uncertainly without a clear path. But then, as they turned another corner, Ray came to a sudden halt. We need to be careful now. The people watching could be close. I don't want to put either of you in danger. His eyes scanned the surroundings, vigilant and alert. Danger? You brought us right into it. Benedita exclaimed, the knot of fear tightening in her chest. I didn't know. I thought it would be safe, Ray replied, frustration breaking through his calm demeanor. This is a long shot, but if we want answers, we have to meet him. It's a risk worth taking. Benedita exchanged a glance with Clara, who was now biting her lip, her anxiety palpable. What if this is a trap? She murmured. Then we fight. Together. Benedita assured her, surprising herself. The firm resolve felt different this time, deeper than before. They had already lost too much, and as memories of their child washed over her, an unexpected fire sparked in her heart. They continued moving, stepping into an alley that twisted between old brick buildings. Luz, the friend Ray had mentioned, lived in one of these dilapidated structures. It wasn't the ideal sanctuary, but for now, it was their only option. After a moment, Ray knocked softly on a battered door marked with peeling paint. The sound echoed in the silence, and they stood waiting, a collective breath held. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing an older man with gray-streaked hair and deep-set eyes. Luz. His gaze shifted to Ray, then softened as he took in Benedita and Clara. Come in, quickly. He urged, stepping aside to let them through. The space inside was dim, filled with worn furniture and eclectic objects that whispered stories of the past. A sense of urgency hung in the air, electric with anticipation. As they settled into the small living area, Benedita's mind raced. Was this the moment when some thread would be tugged, unraveling everything? She glanced at Ray, whose shoulders were tense with expectation. Ray tells me you're looking for answers, Luz began, his voice low and steady. Answers about the child and the darkness that surrounds what happened. Benedita felt her breath catch, the weight of the conversation looming larger than anything she had anticipated. We need to know the truth. All of it. Truth. Luz frowned, his expression serious. What I know comes at a cost, and once you step into the light, there's no turning back. Are you both ready? Clara's gaze darted toward Benedita, searching for reassurance, but Benedita nodded, emotions swirling within her. We have to hear it. Whatever it is. Then. Luz leaned closer, lowering his voice, you're about to find out that there are forces at play that go far beyond what you understand. Before Benedita could react, the energy shifted in the room, a tension that felt almost alive. The feeling of being watched returned, more formidable than before. That sense of certainty washed over her again. Whatever was set to unfold next could change everything. And with that, the moment of truth began to tremble on the tip of their tongues, ready to spill into the air. What would she discover? Would it lead her to peace or further into chaos? The thrill of the unknown surged within her, and Benedita couldn't help the question that rose at the back of her mind. What had they stumbled upon? Luz's voice hung in the air, thick with promise and danger. Benedita leaned in, her heart racing. She felt as if each word held the weight of her past, her grief, and the hint of hope she had clung to irrationally. What do you mean by forces at play? Clara asked, her voice shaking slightly but holding a spark of determination. It's not just about your child, Luz began, his eyes narrowing as if searching for the right words buried deep within him. There are others involved, things that have been hidden from you both. The darkness you sensed isn't just the result of personal loss, it is a collective force, one that feeds on sorrow and feeds back into the lives of those lost. Why? Why would anyone do this? Benedita interjected, pain threading through her words. Because they believe they can control it, Luz replied, his voice steady but low. They think they can harness the power of grief and use it for their own ends. And now, you are part of it whether you like it or not. Shivers danced down Benedita's spine as she shared a glance with Ray. The stakes were growing with each passing second. They weren't just victims anymore, they were players, perhaps even pawns caught in a game they had never wished to join. Tell us what we need to do. Benedita's voice broke slightly, but she pushed forward, inwardly finding strength. We can't allow this to continue. Not for our child, for all the children lost. Luz's expression softened at her fierce determination. You have to be willing to face what comes next. This isn't just about answers, it's about action. We need to confront those behind this darkness. Confront them? But how? Clara's voice was barely above a whisper. The irony of their situation, where they were supposed to be protecting their child or at least avenging their loss, seemed increasingly absurd. With knowledge, Luz said, his tone unwavering. Certain paths will reveal themselves to you. You'll find allies in unexpected places. But, you must remain vigilant, trust is scarce in this world. Benedita felt a mix of dread and excitement. You mean there are others like us? There are many who have lost, he replied. Some may share your pain, others will try to manipulate it. You'll have to determine who you can trust along the way. Ray interjected, what do we do first? You need to visit a place, Luz said, his voice dropping lower. The old cemetery at Raven's Bend. There's a connection there. Secrets lie buried, and you must unearth them. The spirits of the lost are restless, they will guide you, but beware, they can just as easily pull you down into despair. Cemeteries? Benedita's heart raced. The thought of stepping into that space, where her child should have been honored, felt overwhelming. Is that what it takes? It's where you'll find the first truth. When you see the tombstone with your child's name, the veil will lift, and clarity will begin. The heaviness in the room threatened to crush Benedita, pushing her to the edge of her strength. She wanted answers, but the price felt steep. What if we find nothing? What if whoever they are, find us first? Clara's voice trembled, reflecting the fear twisting inside Benedita. Then you fight. Together, remember? Ray reminded them. His voice carried the bravado of someone trying to mask their own fear. Benedita took a deep breath. Let us do this. We owe it to our child. We owe it to ourselves. As they prepared to leave the dimly lit room, Luz held them with his steadfast gaze. Remember, once you take this step, there is no going back. You will face truths that may shatter everything you thought you knew. Benedita nodded, knowing the journey ahead would be perilous. But the flicker of determination ignited within her sparked warmth against the chill of dread. "Let us find what we're looking for," she whispered, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. As they stepped out into the night, the darkness enveloped them, a reminder of both the journey they had begun and the shadows that lingered just beyond sight. Would they find light, or would the dark swallow them whole? In that haunting silence, the question loomed: could they truly face the truth, no matter how painful it might be? Under the watchful gaze of the stars, Benedita, Clara, and Ray descended into the unknown. The cool night air brushed against them as they made their way to Raven's Bend Cemetery, their breaths trembling with a curious mix of fear and resolve. The weight of their past hung heavy on their shoulders, yet the flicker of hope burned bright within them. They were no longer just survivors, they were warriors ready to reclaim everything that had been taken from them. As they stepped through the wrought iron gates, the energy shifted. Shadows loomed around the ancient tombstones, winding paths whispering secrets that only the lost could hear. Benedita felt the pull of her heart, a yearning to uncover the truth that had been buried for far too long. They walked deeper into the cemetery, the moonlight casting an ethereal glow on the graves. Each step echoed with memories of her child, shaking her to her core. Would they find the name? Would it reveal the secrets surrounding his fate? "Over here," Clara said, her voice breaking the silence. She pointed to a moss-covered headstone, half obscured by weeds. Benedita felt her heart race as they approached. The name carved into the stone brought tears to her eyes. Beneath the engraved letters lay a connection, a truth tethered to their child, a reality they had been seeking all this time. Benedita Reyes' voice was soft but urgent. "This is it. This is where it all began." He knelt down, brushing away dirt from the stone, revealing more words. "There's more to uncover." Automatically, tears streamed down Benedita's cheeks, heavy with grief but mixing with something new, determination. She knelt next to Ray, tracing over each letter. She could almost feel her child's spirit rising around them, urging them to go deeper, to delve into the past that felt so heavy yet so hauntingly familiar. The ground trembled beneath them, sending a shiver through Benedita as if the earth itself reacted to their presence. "What if it's true?" she whispered, some deeper understanding dawning on her. "What is?" Clara asked, her eyes darting between the grave and Benedita's face, intently searching for clarity. "What if the darkness we felt isn't just sorrow, but something far bigger? What if we were all part of this plan?" Benedita breathed, her voice alive with realization. "We have to break this cycle. We have to help those lost." Suddenly, the air grew thick with shadows, an unmistakable presence. They could feel the spirits swirling around them, urging them onward. "We need to confront this darkness," Clara echoed, courage taking root. Together, Ray added, reaching for their hands, a visual bond formed in the shared strength of their resolve. With renewed purpose, they rose, their hearts pounding in unison as they started to navigate through the cemetery, echoing whispers guiding their way. Benedita's senses tingled as they passed gravestones marked with names she couldn't comprehend but whose stories beckoned for recognition. Yet even as they moved forward, a sinister shadow swept across their path. The feeling of being watched had returned, only this time it felt more threatening, more alive. In a chilling moment, they froze as they caught sight of those dark figures flanking the cemetery's gates, assaulting them with a sense of dread that tightened around their throats. "Go!" Benedita yelled, adrenaline coursing through her veins, as she and her companions sprinted toward another path, desperation igniting their footsteps. "Over there." Clara pointed at a dilapidated mausoleum, its entrance partially ajar. Benedita felt the intoxicating mix of fear and resolve radiate from her soul as they ducked inside. The coolness engulfed them, contrasting starkly with the heat of urgency pounding in their chests. "What now?" Clara whispered, her breath hovering in the thick air. "We need to find something, anything about what is happening," Benedita replied, scanning the shadows of the mausoleum. Dust motes danced in the dim light, as if the spirits churned around them, echoing their fear but also their need for action. Just then, A flicker caught her eye, a shimmering glow beneath a pile of stone. Benedita knelt, curiosity tingling against the skin of her fingers as she brushed away debris. Beneath the weight of years lay a small, delicate box, engraved and inviting. "What is that?" Ray asked, voice breathless with intrigue. With trembling hands, Benedita opened the box, revealing a single, luminous key. It glimmered with a story of its own, entwined with fate and buried truths. This has to be the key to breaking this curse," she said, a radiant smile breaking through her tears. But just as hope surged, the shadows outside grew thick, moving closer, stretching toward the mausoleum like a creeping fog. "Time is running out," Ray warned, glancing back at the entrance. "No." Clara's voice broke. "We have to confront whoever is behind this. This key, it can't just be for show." Stepping into the darkness felt simultaneously terrifying and liberating. "Then we'll confront them together," Benedita declared, gritting her teeth. As they opened the mausoleum's door and stepped out, rays of moonlight pierced through the night sky, illuminating their path forward. The darkness that had once felt insurmountable began to dissolve before their steady gaze. And as the figures approached, Benedita held the key tightly in her hand, ready to face whatever awaited them. The moment of truth was here, and together, they would face it. No more whispers, no more shadows. They would reclaim their past and forge a future one born from courage, unity, and the strength of a mother's love. Together, they stepped into the light, ready to unveil the truth, knowing that only by confronting the darkness could they hope to find their way back to the light. The ground beneath them trembled, yet with every firm step, the power of hope surged. This wasn't just an end, it was an inspiring new beginning. As they made their way forward, Benedita felt lighter, more alive than she had in years. And as they moved into the unknown, heading toward the heart of the darkness, she knew deep down that they would emerge victorious, forever transforming their fate. Now is the moment for you to hit that subscribe button. Don't wait. Subscribe immediately so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change and evoke hope. If you felt anything at all from this journey, leave a like right now. It feeds the algorithm and gets stories like this one in front of more people who need inspiration. Please comment below, sharing your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending. What did you think? We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey of transformation. Your support fuels this community, and only true fans understand the importance of taking that action.